Are you charging enough or leaving money on the table? These 6 pricing rules can make or break your personal chef business. Let's fix that starting now. Hey, I'm Andres Hinojosa, and this is Chefpreneur, your go-to channel for starting and growing a personal chef business step by step. If you're serious about building a career as a personal chef business, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a new video. All right, let's dive right in. We're going to talk about the 6 pricing rules that really you need to follow as a personal chef, or if you're wanting to aspire to be a personal chef. So let's talk about rule number 1. Rule number 1, set a minimum price for your services. Now, what do I mean by setting a minimum price? This means you do not get out of bed unless you're going to make at least this much money. And we all have to have a minimum for each one of our services, I believe, in our personal chef business. This is what we teach in our Chefpreneur method. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If you're going to be basically doing a dinner party, which we'll get into on some of the other rules here on how to price dinner parties or private events, but you need to have a minimum. So let's say if there is someone wanting a 2-person dinner, you are not going to charge for just 2 people, whatever your prices are of those 2 people. You're going to charge at least a threshold of a minimum because you're still getting out of bed, you're going and cooking for a client, you're actually producing the services that honestly, whether it was 2 or 3, 4 people, it's the same amount of work. So you need to make sure that you're covering yourself with a minimum price for your services, okay? Rule number 2, never charge by the hour. Now, this is something I've seen a lot of chefs do, and honestly, for me, it's a little bit confusing, okay? And I really believe it's confusing for the client as well. Think about it this way. If you're saying, I'm going to charge $50 an hour, and you're saying it's going to take you 10 hours to produce a service, let's say you're doing a dinner party for 14 people, just kind of using a random number here, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to charge $50 an hour. It's going to take me 10, 11 hours, right? So you're going to look at like $500 or $550 for the service. And honestly, it's like, that doesn't sound bad, right? $500 going to cooking for 14 people. I think it's a little too low, in my personal opinion. But what you're doing is you're setting an hour. So when you're in consultation with the client's like, how many hours it's going to take if you charge by the hour? And you're like, probably 10 or 11. You're going to sit there and kind of get them to guess and wonder about if it's something that will go over. What happens if you have to cook for 2 more people? What happens if the client pauses dinner and says, hey, instead of starting at 7, we want to start at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, or hey, Uncle Tio is late and we got to stop, everything that we're doing and wait for him to start. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Chef, well, isn't that the way that why we're charging an hourly rate is because it's like, then if they want to delay the things, we're making more money? Well, that is some upside onto that, but it's really confusing when it comes down to the entire service. And so, for instance, when I first started my business, I honestly charged by the hour at the very, 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 very beginning. And here's what I quickly realized. When I was cooking at a client's house, and they were basically like, hey, I'm like, oh, I'm going to clean up, I'm going to clean this, I'm going to clean that. And I started cleaning, and sometimes cleaning would take me, depending on what kind of service I produced, an hour and a half tops, as I like to sweep. I like to do a little light mop as well. I want to leave my clients really with a great, great service and making sure that I'm cleaning everything up. But I feel like over time, the first kind of few events that I did like that, I noticed something very specific. I noticed that the clients were basically starting to tell me, like, hey, I got that. Don't do this, don't do that. And I was like, man, I feel like they're pushing me out of the kitchen. And to be honest, I think they were, because I'm charging by the hour. Who wants to have someone mop the floors for $50 an hour? Nobody, right? And so it got me thinking, like, wow, maybe that's what's happening. And then also, sometimes I'd be done a little early. And I'm an integral guy, and so I don't want to charge for hours that I wasn't working. And so if I got done early, or sometimes we moved up dinner, or they ate fast and it was an easy service, I was making less money. Okay, so never charge by the hour. It's confusing for you, it's confusing for your clients, and I think that you're going to be better off for it. Okay, now, rule number 3. Okay, always use a price per person for private events. And here's what I mean by that. Okay, so as we're building this up and we go through the next 3 steps after this, Remember how I told you that you're charging a minimum price? Well, for private events, I charge a price per person. Instead of charging hourly, I charge based upon, in a way, kind of results. If you have, just like you go to a theme park and you're paying per ticket, right? If someone comes into the theme park at 8 o'clock in the morning and stays until the very last minute it closes at 11 o'clock, the ticket price was the same. They got more value because they got a ticket price from you, and that's it. Imagine if they would calculate how many hours you were in the theme park. Again, going back to rule number 2, never charging by the hour, that's something that I don't want to be a part of. So as I started thinking about this, I started realizing to myself, okay, if I am sitting here and I'm not wanting to charge basically by the hour, I'm going to charge per person. And so, for instance, you might say, well, for a private event, I want to charge $100 per person. That's perfect. Remember, we talked about that minimum price, right? That minimum price is so crucial. And I'm going to give you a little formulaic calculation here. If you charge by price per person, what is my minimum then? And I usually say the minimum is 5 times the amount that you're charging per person. So remember, I was using an example about doing a dinner for just 2 people. I would charge $500 if it was 2 people. Because if my price per person is $100, I'm multiplying that by 5, and that's my minimum. So whether a client has 2 people, 3 people eating, or 4 people, or 5, it's $500 plus groceries. Now, if it's 6 people, 7 people, you're charging $700. 8 people, $800. So you see where this is going. So always try to charge a price per person for private events. Okay, rule number 4, use a flat rate price for meal prep. So a lot of people ask me, and a lot of chefs ask me, well, what about meal prep, chef? Well, what I do is in your services that you're creating, whatever you're offering in your personal chef business, you're wanting to charge a minimum. We already kind of discussed that a little bit, right? So with meal prep, you want to have that minimum either be that price of your minimum price or kind of whatever minimum you set up as a flat rate pricing for meal prep. So for instance, if you're doing meal prep for a client and they're a family of 4 and they're wanting 3 or 4 dinners, let's say 4 dinners for the week. Okay, you go to their house and you're saying, I'm going to charge you $400. Okay, now we'll get into groceries as well. You've already kind of let me drop a little hint to you that I always will suggest you charging basically the grocery cost onto the client, but we'll get to that in the next rule. But you're wanting to charge a flat rate for meal prep plus the cost of groceries as well. And it's setting you up for success so that you're not feeling like, again, you're cheaping yourself out, you're getting your value, and it makes it easy for the client to understand. If you charge hourly, again, it gets confusing. What happens if it's an easy menu that week, right? It's like, well, you're making less money. And that's not what we want for you, okay? So number 5, always pass on the grocery cost to the client. I've already kind of mentioned this a couple of times. It kind of slipped out of my mouth. I apologize. But this is what we teach. Okay, so if we're kind of adding it all up, I don't like to do food cost. I hate food costing. I hate it with a passion. And I'm sure you do too. It really is not conducive, especially, we all know the economy can fluctuate, go up and down. Recently, as I'm recording this video, egg prices are ridiculous. Why am I going to pay for that? Why am I going to take the hit when I'm cooking someone else's food? So here's the deal. They're going to pay me for my services. They're going to pay you for your services, your skills. They're going to pay for the experience, and they're going to pay for the groceries on top of that. Okay. And this is something that is, I think, not really utilized by a lot of people. And it's starting to catch on, and I'm going to be singing this and preaching this from the mountaintops. And it just allows you as well to have just absolute clarity on what your profitability will be. When I first started my business, again, I was charging by the hour. And then when I moved over into not charging by the hour, I started figuring out the kind of like per person, flat rate type of stuff. I was still including groceries. And I was sitting there juggling, trying to figure out how much money I was actually going to earn. And then I'd go to the store. I'd do the best job of guesstimating when I was quoting the client, especially for my pricing and where I wanted to do profit-wise. And I just started feeling like I was all over the place. And if they wanted filet, I was trying to upcharge. And if they wanted crab, I was trying to upcharge. And it sometimes didn't cover the cost. And honestly, I wasn't making a lot of money. And this was something that I was getting very frustrating for me. And then all of a sudden, I had one client. And this is where it all changed for me. And I'm kind of trying to give you the backstory on why I charge this way, because it really allowed me to see and openly actually using the grocery cost as I guess you would say, as like a selling point. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, I've had pushback with that. I've had pushback from clients. And I'll tell you about a situation that I got pushback from. So basically, this is what really helped me kind of understand this is one time I had this guest and they wanted everything organic, grass-fed, wild caught, like really organic. And I was really struggling on how to price that because it's like I could just mark it up and make it more expensive, yes, but I still didn't really know what that was going to cost. And the stuff that they were wanting was really high end stuff. And so when I went out there and I started, driving around and I started looking at the prices in the grocery store, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're going to spend like $700 on like 7 people, like $100 a person just for the food. And it kind of dawned on me like, well, if I just have them pay for the groceries, which is what I did in that particular case, it started and I never stopped charging for the groceries after that. I looked at that situation. I said, you know what? Do you mind if you guys just cover the groceries and I'll charge you a service fee on top of it? And they're like, oh, that works. That works fine. Yeah, we understand we're picky. We want organic. We want this. And then what it did is it relieved this big load off my shoulders. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to charge and include my pricing the grocery cost, and it just relieved this whole pressure. And ever since then, this was probably 10 years ago in my business, I never looked back. I started charging the groceries on top of whatever I was charging for my services, and it changed the game for me. Now, one thing you might be thinking, because I want to camp out here a little bit and give you some value here on this, and I really want you to shift your mentality in this, because I know I'm doing this video and we're really talking about training you on these 6 rules that I really believe you must follow. It's going to really help you become more profitable. It's going to make things easy. You're not doing food costing. You're always making sure you're earning a minimum for getting out of bed and going to cook for someone and serving someone. But I want to tell you one more story. Okay, I'm a storyteller. I want to tell you one more story. And there was this lady that one time reached out to me and she wanted to inquire about personal chef services and went through my whole thing. And when I gave her, after that, I sent her a menu. She loved it. She kind of basically was telling me, hey, I want to move forward. And I sent her an estimated cost of the service. And I gave her my price per person. Like I was telling you guys to follow, it was a private event. I think it was for like 10 people. I sent her my price per person and I said plus groceries. And based upon this menu, I'm estimating the groceries will be XYZ just for her own budget. Of course, also to send her the invoice for the deposit, you need to have some number there, right? Well, all of a sudden, about maybe an hour later, she sends me this nasty email. How dare you try to scam me and pull a fast one over me? Like you're not including the grocery in that price? Like that's absurd. And she was going off in an email, and I was like, whoa. And it kind of took me for a loop here, and I'm like, man, I didn't mean any disrespect by it. Like this is just the way I charge. So I sat there and I thought about it, and what I did was I replied back to her. I said, Mrs. I won't mention her name. I said, can I give you a quick call? So I picked up the phone. She replied back very quickly, yes. I picked up the phone and I said, hey, I know that you have a budget. And I understand that you felt like maybe I was trying to pull a fast one and I didn't disclose that to you. And it's not that I withheld it from you. It's just what we charge. And we even say it on our website. And she was like, well, and her tone kind of changed from the email. It's like keyboard warrior type stuff. And she says, well, I've contacted 2 other chefs and they include the price within their services of the groceries. And I said, listen, I'm not here to bash any other chefs and how they do business. But do you mind if I just take a few minutes and describe to you and explain to you why we do this? And she said, absolutely. I said, okay. Now, I'm not saying this is happening from other chefs. And maybe you're watching this video right now and you're one of those chefs. This is not to offend you or bash you. This is hopefully to help you understand and really be able to explain this to somebody of why you do what you do. So I told her the reason I charge grocery cost on top of it, number one, is because we have a lot of clients that have very special requests, whether it's organic, whether they want kosher, halal, maybe they're plant-based, and some of these plant-based cheeses and things like that, it's a lot of money. It starts to add up. And I said, I would rather buy the food that you're really looking for according to your dietary restrictions, or maybe you don't really even have a preference. You want me to get the cheapest food possible. I'm still going to get quality, but I'll try to do my best on making that happen. I said, but other chefs, how do you know? And I'm not saying they're doing this, but I wanted to plant this seed in her head. I said, how do you know they don't have frozen chicken that was on sale for 50% off that they bought a month ago in their freezer? And they're serving that to you and your guest. How do you know Maybe they have food that's leftovers. You never know what they're doing behind the scenes. And I said, now, I am not saying other chefs do that. I'm just giving you a forewarning and kind of letting you know that this could be a possibility. You really don't know. With us, though, we're going to buy all the ingredients that day. We're going to shop for the groceries, maybe the day before on some things, if it's a specialty like order item, like going to a butcher and getting specific things cut. But we're going to present to you and we're going to give you the receipts of everything we bought. So A, it's transparent. You know exactly what we bought. B, all the food is yours. And C, you can see how fresh it is. You can know that we didn't buy it off some back of a truck for a 50% discount. We bought it that day. It's time-stamped. You know what stores we bought it at. It's very transparent. You know what she told me? She said, Chef, man, you know what? I want to move forward and hire you. And now you got me thinking about how I never want to trust anybody who includes the grocery cost as a personal chef ever again. Literally, I switched her mind. And I think that was really important for you guys to know because it really allowed her to see the value in passing on the groceries to her and seeing the reason why we do it. So I would highly recommend you do that. I hate food costing and I want my business and your business to be extremely profitable. I don't want you missing out on basically the opportunity of not knowing what you're going to make walking to an event. You could do your best of managing the food cost, but why do that when it's a no-brainer and say it was $180, here's the receipt. Okay, so that's rule number 5. And then the last rule, rule number 6, increase your price with time and growth. What do I mean by this? You know, one of the biggest things, in fact, on all of my trainings, on every chef I coach, their 2 biggest struggles are 2 things. Number 1, they don't know where to start. Or number 2, they don't know how to price. And definitely the third one is, how do I find leads? And how do I find clients? Which is also really important, of course, in any business. But when we talk about pricing, they really struggle with this from a confidence level. In fact, I was just talking to one of the chefs that I'm coaching the other day, and it's so funny how in our jobs, if you're currently in a job, if you're currently cooking in a job, maybe you have a 9-to-5, you're watching this video, whatever it is, but you want to start a personal chef business, or maybe you're already in business and you feel like you're kind of undervaluing yourself, which you probably are. But the thing is it's so funny how in our job, we're always saying, man, we deserve more than this. We should be paid more than this. We should be paid more than this. And what's funny about it is we go into our own business and we act like little scared puppy dogs and we never charge what we're worth. It's so weird. Psychologically, I think it's because the confidence level we have, not in ourselves and our ability and our skills. I'm sure you have amazing skills. I'm sure God has put that inside of you, just like I feel like he's given me some natural talent of cooking. And then I've, of course, honed my skills and sharpened them over the years. But the truth is a lot of us really contemplate if we're really worth that. And for some reason, when we go to the marketplace, we act scared and we feel like, I don't want to lose them based on price, or, I don't know if I'm worth that. And the reason is, if I'm being really honest with you, the reason is because you don't have confidence in your entire business. It's not about your skills. It's about the rest of it. It's about the value and the experience that you give them of where your confidence is not coming from. So here's what I say. Start with pricing that feels comfortable. Now, don't undervalue yourself still, but at least start with pricing you feel comfortable, because if you don't believe that you're worth that, clients won't believe that. That's very important for you to understand. If you don't believe it, clients will not believe it either, and you won't ever sell your services. Okay, I'm going to do more videos on sales as well, something that I love to do. And this is really getting you to get confident in it. So I believe, again, if you follow these 6 rules in pricing your services as a personal chef, so maybe you're sitting there, you're wanting to start one, or you already have one and you're like, man, I need to implement some of this because I hate doing food costing. I'm including the grocery cost, all these types of things. I hope you make these changes. I hope you make these changes, and I hope they benefit you. Hey, listen, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope it really helped you. Again, please like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications if you want to see more videos on how to build or grow your personal chef business. Take care. God bless you, and we'll talk to you on the next video.